Across the modern digital landscape, a peculiar creature prepares to emerge, the creator. They gather ideas, sketch plans, perfect systems, but often they never begin. Weeks pass, sometimes months, not from laziness, but from a far subtler trap, the illusion of progress. In this video, we follow the journey of one such creator, stuck in planning, chasing readiness, unaware that time is quietly slipping away. What's really stopping them? And what must be realized before the moment is lost forever? He is Tim, and I am Banter Mentary. Welcome to the Creator Journey. What was really going on before you started creating?
I didn't realize it, but I was hiding.
What were you telling yourself at the time?
I told myself I was preparing, researching, strategizing.
Did you feel like you were procrastinating, or did it feel productive?
Quite the opposite. I didn't feel like I was stuck. I felt like I was working.
What kind of things were you doing that gave the illusion of progress?
I was watching tons of how-to YouTube videos, taking notes, comparing prices of gear that I couldn't afford.
Why weren't you uploading yet?
My fallback every time was I kept on telling myself that I wanted to start it the right way.
What were you afraid of, deep down?
It's not one thing really, but what comes to mind is I was battling the fear of failure, the fear of being seen to sound or look cringe.
Was there a specific moment that changed your thinking?
So one day, ironically, as I was watching some YouTube videos, I heard a line that said, "Perfectionism is fear in disguise."
What did that quote, "Perfection is fear in disguise," make you realize?
It made me realize that I wasn't really planning to succeed, but rather I was planning to avoid failing.
How did that realization affect the way you think about starting now?
That phrase gave me the courage to start, because you cannot improve what doesn't exist, what is unreal.
Why is this message important for other creators who feel stuck in planning mode?
If you are where I was, stuck with so many plans of what you want to do but not executing anything, I think this video will unlock something for you.
Why did planning feel like progress at first?
Something funny with planning is it made me feel like I was moving forward.
What kind of tasks were you spending time on during the planning phase?
I spent hours organizing video ideas that I had not recorded yet. I spent even more time figuring out fonts for thumbnails, for video titles that I didn't have at that time when I was starting out.
Were you actually creating any content during that time?
At that time, I wasn't creating any content.
How did the act of planning make you feel emotionally?
It made me feel productive, like I'm doing some real work.
What made you start questioning whether that was real progress?
So readiness is a moving target, and I realized that the more I planned, the more I needed to plan. And anyway, something new always kept coming up.
What's the danger of staying in the planning loop?
The danger of staying in that planning loop is that you end up it makes you feel safe.
Why does planning feel safer than starting?
Planning feels safe because it's just you alone, doing stuff.
What do people avoid by constantly planning?
Failure, because you can't fail at a plan that you don't execute. So you end up hiding behind the work that goes with planning.
What were you really avoiding?
I was avoiding public exposure and, backlash.
Were you unmotivated during this phase?
I wasn't unmotivated during this time. Quite the opposite, really. I felt like I really needed to start, like there was that urgency.
What did you feel when you saw others posting content?
Yeah, when I saw other creators creating and posting their content, I felt like, that could be me.
What happened every time you tried to actually start?
So every time I tried to start, there was this tug of war going on. It was like there were two versions of me. One knowing that I am in dire need of starting this thing, but another pulling me, pulling the other side and asking, what if you're not ready yet?
What were the voices in your head telling you?
The voice in my head didn't say, don't start, but it said, make it better fast. polish your brand, and figure out your niche, and really many other things that didn't include a record.
What made those voices hard to ignore?
It was very hard to ignore those voices because they made logical sense. It was the responsible thing to do.
Why did the doubts sound so logical at the time?
They sounded logical because it would be responsible to put yourself in a position to be ridiculed or to even waste time doing something that might not succeed.
What was really behind all the hesitation?
But what was really going on was the gnawing fear of failure, getting visible, and then realizing that you don't measure up.
What were you actually afraid of?
For me, the scariest part was not really the failure that could come out of this, but being seen trying.
Why is being seen trying scarier than failing?
Trying means you care. And when people see that you care, they can reject more than your work. They can reject you.
How does fear disguise itself in the creator journey?
Fear disguises itself as perfectionism or the need to do it right.
Where were you when the realization happened?
Ironically, through watching YouTube videos and trying to avoid doing the actual work.
What triggered the shift in your thinking?
So I stumbled on a phrase that I don't know who said it, but what they said is it went something like, you don't get clarity, then you start, but you start, then you get clarity. So it's like that thing where you have the cart before the horse.
What did that quote, "You don't get clarity and then start, you start and then get clarity," mean to you?
That one sentence exposed everything that I was doing or avoiding doing.
How did that sentence reframe what you'd been doing?
I had been waiting to get some clarity before doing the actual work, but something strange is that that's not how clarity works.
Why doesn't clarity come before starting?
You see, clarity is not something that you find in your head, and you can spend a ton of time in your head trying to find clarity. Clarity comes from you doing things.
What changed when you looked at your plans after hearing that?
Really, the honest truth is my plans felt empty.
What was the deeper insight you gained about planning versus action?
My plans were not empty because they were not smart. It's because they were not real. They were all about planning to create, but not creating anything.
What was the core realization that broke the cycle?
So the core realization for me was ironically a better fear or concern that if I keep planning for the perfect start, then seemingly I will never start.
How did that insight change your relationship with starting?
All this time, the clarity that I wanted was on the other side of imperfection. It flipped everything for me.
What did you stop doing after that realization?
After that moment, I stopped to plan the right way to start. Simple.
What kind of permission did you give yourself that changed everything?
I gave myself the permission to create bad videos on purpose.
Why would you intentionally allow yourself to make imperfect content?
It's not because I wanted them to be bad, but because I needed to prove to myself nothing bad will happen by starting imperfectly or by starting with imperfections.
What did you learn once you stopped chasing perfection?
The weird part, the more I focused on momentum instead of mastery, the more I learned.
Did you need more knowledge or more action?
Definitely more action, more reps, more publishing.
How did momentum start to affect your mindset?
Once I tested that momentum, I wanted to create.
Did the fear go away?
No, that hesitation did not go away. That fear did not go away overnight. But that voice, I believe, became much quieter.
What helped you keep moving even when fear was still there?
I now had evidence that I could get out of my head and do something real.
Why is evidence such a powerful tool in overcoming fear?
Evidence is louder than fear, and now I have proof that my world didn't come to an end because I clicked publish.
How do you think about starting now compared to before?
I don't treat starting like a one-time event anymore.
Why is starting a repeated decision, not a one-time event?
It's because the fear hides in so many different places. So you overcome it with taking action, and even small and refined actions do help.
What question guides your approach to getting things out the door?
The question that I always ask myself is, what's the smallest version of this thing that I'm doing that I can post today?
Why did you shift towards smaller, faster outputs?
I used to think that starting small was selling myself short. Now I know it's what builds proof.
What's the value in starting small, even if it feels insignificant?
With proof, of course, you can build momentum.
What tactical things do you do now that help you stay consistent?
I don't outline for hours. I speak my ideas into my notes app. I don't wait to feel creative. I build habits that carry me through the low energy days. I don't create and hide.
Why is shipping rough better than waiting for perfect?
I ship even if it's rough because finished teaches me more than perfect.
What's your new goal with content creation?
My goal right now is not to avoid putting out bad content, but to outgrow it. That's my goal.
Why can't you improve if you're not publishing?
I can't outgrow what I am not creating. So to improve, I must publish. It's an non-negotiable for me at this point in my journey.
What do you want to say to people stuck in planning mode?
Yeah, you're not broken, you're not lazy, you're not missing a magical strategy.
Are people who procrastinate on starting actually lazy or broken?
No, you're probably just scared, like I was.
What's the deeper reason people avoid starting?
People avoid starting because it matters. Finally, you're doing something real and you're putting yourself out there.
How do clarity and confidence actually form?
What I've learned is clarity doesn't come from you sitting down and thinking, but from you getting out and doing. And confidence doesn't show up at the beginning. It catches up with you in the middle. So you better start. You better get moving because eventually it will catch up.
Why does starting feel so uncomfortable?
Risks, they are out of your comfort zone. They are meant to make you feel uneasy.
What's the risk of endlessly planning?
The problem with endless planning is that it never ends. There is always something to plan for. It never ends and it's safe.
What's the most important next step someone can take?
You start scared, you start unrefined, you eat that frog, you create and hit publish.
Why does publishing, even imperfectly, matter so much?
It gives you proof that you are in the game and now you have a chance to improve. You will have an idea of what needs to be improved.
What's your final encouragement for anyone watching this?
You can start small, you can start scared, but just make sure you start because motion builds clarity and clarity builds everything else.